We got 10,000 acres in Belize with 2 miles of frontage on the Caribbean Sea. Well, you don't see that every day. That's the biggest difference between real estate and stocks, is that in real estate, insider trading is perfectly legal. What could you do with 3,000 acres in Napa? And of course, I'm mentally sitting there, sipping on a margarita with him thinking, how in the world did you acquire 3,000 acres in Napa?
Oh man, so excited today. I'm going to fanboy a little bit because I'm so excited to have Joe Williams as a guest today in Realtors and Cars Getting Coffee. Joe Williams, what can I say about him? Do we have enough time before I pick him up? Joe Williams is the co-founder of Keller Williams, the largest privately owned real estate company in the world, with over 200,000 residential agents and a few thousand commercial agents. Keller Williams is just a fantastic company. I love their mission. Maybe we'll pull that out of Joe a little bit. There he is. We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Joe's coming out of a family office conference talking about his latest project.
Enrique!
And let's welcome Joe Williams.
How are you, my friend?
So good to see you.
It's good to see you.
I already told the crowd, I'm going to fanboy a little bit today. I'm such a fan.
Honor's all mine, buddy. All mine.
Good to see you. Now, so you might think you're in this car to talk real estate or because you're this real estate figure, but actually we're both Longhorns.
So we're on a high because we won last Friday. Yeah.
Longhorns are doing good. I think when I was at UT, Ricky Williams was there.
Yep. I was going to say, I remember that. Heisman winner.
Yeah. And then he came to the Dolphins for a bit.
He came to the Dolphins, and the problem Ricky had was the agent that negotiated his contract didn't know what he was doing. And so he had all these in performance enhance incentives. And if Ricky couldn't get it, he didn't make a lot of money. It's just a classic case of, do your homework before you put your career on the line with somebody, and the guy he was a good guy. He just hadn't dealt in the National Football League as an agent.
And it's interesting how that relates even to agents in real estate that kind of work outside their competency, which is a violation of ethics.
Totally. Well, anytime, any service industry, what you want to be able to do is make sure. What everybody wants is they want to work with the best people. And in some cases, what I've learned over the years is I'm going to pay a little bit more money to get the services of somebody who really knows what they're doing. But in the long run, it's a much better investment.
It is, I've heard Grant Cardone say many times, I will never do a deal without an agent involved, right? Because egos get in the way when principal talks to principal. I see a lot of first sale by owners in the residential business. And he always talks about make sure you have an agent involved. And as you're saying, someone that knows.
Yeah, well, I would say any big ticket item, I want an expert who deals with that item on a daily basis and understands it. It can be as simple as going into a Home Depot and buying a refrigerator. I want somebody who's had the experience of selling different refrigerator brands. It's kind of like I tell agents when I'm training them and I'm saying, look, what do you think the definition of sales is? Well, the definition of sales is helping people make wise decisions. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, you do that by totally understanding the market. When you're talking about real estate, it's all about value. The better I can discern value in real estate, the better agent I'm going to be because I understand what makes up that value. And what's cool about real estate is, in regard to other investments like stocks or bonds, crypto, or any of that, what's cool about real estate is it's a learnable investment. And by that I mean, most of the things that drive value in real estate is public information. It's what's happening with jobs, what's happening with supply and demand, where are the utilities, where are the best schools, what makes this location a good location. All of that information typically can be publicly found.
While at the same time, the beauty of real estate is all the insider information that you're allowed to do legally, right?
And if you're really good at your trade, you're going to be able to find out that they're going to put a water line across this property 6 months now, and other people don't know that. So yeah, you can go back to one of your buyers and go, you need to buy this property at X amount per foot because they're about to run a water line here. And a lot of people don't know that. So, and that you make a really good point. That's the biggest difference between real estate and stocks, is that in real estate, insider trading is perfectly legal. Yeah.
Joe, and I jumped the gun. I should have told you this is Realtors and Cars Getting Coffee. A little birdie told me, Janine told me that you love a mocha coffee. So we have a hot mocha.
This is the only time she'd let me have a mocha. She gets mad at me every time I'm in the airport. Would you quit drinking all the sugar? But yeah, I'll gladly drink my mocha.
And so I know we hit the ground running because we're in a conference. And
Yep.
Joe, the premise of this podcast is we're talking to realtors, successful realtors who pivoted from one job to another job. In your case, we'd have to go back all the way back to the toy store.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I was selling retail.
So when you're at a toy store in your young age, right? And I know you're one of the youngest realtors in the state of Texas due to a technicality
Right.
and a hardship, right? And so take us back then. Were there any skills that you took from a salesman in the toy store to the real estate industry?
Here's what I would tell you. First of all, the store was owned by a great Jewish family, Mel and Becky Always. They were great. And Mr. Always had his store next to a restaurant that we owned. And I got tired of working in the restaurant. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I think I'm going to go try to sell toys next door at the toy box. And I knew Mel's son really well, Steve Always, great guy. So Steve agreed to hire me, and Mel kept saying, nah, don't hire him, don't hire him. Well, I turned out for 3 years to be their top sales guy, so I think Mel Always was perfectly happy to have me there. But those guys were master salespeople. I mean, you want to learn sales, go to work for a Jewish family. You're going to learn sales. One of our customers at the store, Tony Specia, wonderful man, I'd been selling him hobbies to he and his boys for 3 years. Wow. So I grabbed Tony one day and said, Tony, tell me about the real estate business. I mean, I like working with people. I mean, I had honed my sales skills, and really it's just knowing the product and helping people, But Tony knew me well. And so that's why I said, yeah, Joe, come on down. I'll tell you all about it. And that's what he did. And as you heard, what happened, my dad had died when I was 10 years old. So it was just mom and the 3 kids. And what Tony discovered, because you couldn't get a license at 19 years old, and that's how old I was. But the state of Texas had a law that said if you were the oldest son of a surviving spouse, you could have contractual majority at 19, which meant I could take the real estate exam and get licensed. That's how I ended up being one of the youngest real estate agents in the state.
And did you transfer some skills from the toy shop into real estate?
Just the ability to talk to people. I mean, if you look at real estate, this is why teachers make great real estate agents. Because when you're in the real estate business, like most good selling professions, you're educating. That's all you're doing, Enrique. And you know that. You're a highly successful guy. You're sitting down with a first-time buyer and going, here's how the system works. If you're interested in buying a home, let me walk it from A to Z, how it happens, and I'll show you how I help. And that's it. So you're selling them on the idea of the service. Then you're out there showing them property, and you're helping them make a wise decision.
That's awesome. And Joe, you have a privileged macro view of the real estate industry, especially agents.
Right.
What do you think? I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and I'm stealing this from the CEO of Discovery Channel. He likes to ask these 2 questions. What do you think agents are doing right and they should be doing more of? What do you think they should be doing? What are they doing wrong they should be doing less of?
Well, on a very basic level, what they're doing right is getting themselves exposed to their local marketplace. Again, understanding real estate starts with value. If I'm showing you and your wife looking at property, I need to be very versed in why this property makes sense for you, because I'm really a counselor at that point. Say, well, they may be asking X, but that's too high. Based on the comparable sales I see, I think a fair number for this property should be this. So that's what agents are doing right. If they really go out there and really look at their marketplace and become a disciple, almost the Encyclopedia Britannica, or today it would be the Google of the real estate in that area, and why those values are what they are. That's what they do right. What they do wrong is when they let their own personal opinion start to overtake what the buyer really would like to do. And by that I mean, if you're a really good salesperson, what you're going to do when you meet someone is sit there and ask them questions. Enrique, tell me about, in an ideal world, if I could find you in your house, the home of your dreams, within your price range, tell me what that looks like to you. And then you just shut up and let them talk. The key to helping people is satisfying whatever need they have. There's enough market comparable information out there to be able to lay it out so they can see, you know what? Yeah, we'd love to buy $1 million house. We're not there yet. That's your goal. You may have to make an interim step before you get there. So let's talk about what those interim steps might be. So again, the very, very best salespeople are the ones that sit back and ask questions and really get a fix on what your needs are, and then are able to demonstrate to you how this property or that property is going to be able to solve that need. Does that make sense?
It does totally make sense. And so, Joe, in the next phase of a very awesome career, right? The next phase, it looks like you're moving up the supply chain of real estate. So from selling real estate, right, and co-founding a company, now you've started a land fund. And what I'm understanding is you're like, no matter what property we're talking about, it all starts with the land.
Starts with the raw land.
Can you tell me what drove that? And it wasn't just an idea, but now there's a fund. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
If you look at where Keller Williams is today, Enrique, we're now the largest privately owned real estate franchise in the world.
Congratulations.
200,000 plus agents, 64 countries. It's almost overwhelming, even to me. I wanted to pivot a little bit more into the raw land area and start to work with some of these really, really upper end family offices, sovereign wealth funds, high net worth individuals that are really looking for places to park capital that are, one, fairly safe, two, they can get a decent return, not a phenomenal return. In other words, I had a friend of mine invested in a medical office supply operation. He ended up making 10 times his money. That's great. But there's a high risk associated with that as well. We're looking for the investors that go, look, we've got X amount of capital that we want to get invested. They look at land and real estate as an alternative investment. Okay, normally they're in stocks, they're in bonds, and all kinds of stuff. But they like the real estate space. So we're able to go to them and say, look, we've got all these agents out there, and they've got their contact databases. In those contact databases, there are a lot of sellers out there that own land that from time to time, they're ready to unload it. I'll get calls from agents sometimes going, oh my gosh, this is an incredible tract of land, 50 acres south of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I've known this guy, and he's 89 years old. And he knows it's now time to sell. And so it's not listed. These are all off-market properties. And we tell these agents, call me. I know you don't have the money, but we can assemble the money. And so that's what the land fund is all about. Because the key is when you find this lead, you generally have about 48 hours to get on. In other words, we got to get it under contract. Then we've got 90 to 120 days to do our due diligence and find out if it's going to work for the highest and best use of whatever that is. It could be a hotel, could be industrial, could be single family. We never know. For us, we're opportunistic investors. So I never know what's going to walk in the door.
God. And why do you think the urgency for 48 hours if it's off market?
Well, because when it's off market, sometimes what my agent finds out is nothing more than a rumor.
I mean, they don't have it listed. They just find out, oh my gosh, Mr. Gray, this guy forever and ever, everybody in the world's talking to this guy, and all of a sudden now he wants to sell. And so maybe they just hear it from somebody. And so they call me. And so what I'm going to say is, well, look, get Mr. Gray on the line and let's get right back on this and find out what he wants to do. And if he indeed wants to sell, we'll have him an offer there in 12 hours. And it's signed, ready to go. Now, every time we buy something, it's going to have a due diligence clause. Because obviously we have to go check out the land, make sure it's going to work. And so what's been incredible is some of the stuff that we see that pops in. It's amazing. We had, and the guy who's a good friend of yours, who's one of our partners on the land fund, Diego.
Yes.
He comes in one day and says, hey, we've got 10,000 acres in Belize with 2 miles of frontage on the Caribbean Sea. Well, you don't see that every day. We had a guy last year in New York. I was at the iGlobal conference. I was up on stage. And at the reception later, this guy comes up to me, and this is very common, happens. A third of these people that come up to us, they know Keller Williams really well. Either someone works, who they bought a property from, or their family member. And he comes up, he says, yeah, my nephew just went to work for y'all in the Boise office in Utah. Very familiar with KW. And he looks at me and he says, well, listen, what could you do with 3,000 acres in Napa? And of course, I'm mentally sitting there sipping on a margarita with him thinking, how in the world did you acquire 3,000 acres in Napa? I mean, we love Napa. I've been there many times. It only takes 50 acres to make a winery. So it's just been an incredible adventure lately in some of the tracks that we come into contact with. And so I can tell you, even if the fund doesn't buy it, and it may not at all, we're going to be able to help them broker 3,000 acres in Napa. We had a family office, this is 9 months ago, showed up in Austin, and Richard and I are having a conversation. These guys are from Chile, and he represents 7 of the wealthiest families in Chile. And he just looks at us in the room and says, they want to get their money out of Chile. And believe me, we're talking millions of dollars that they need to get out of it because it's going left. I mean, their politics is moving this direction, and they see where this is going, and they don't want their capital to be in jeopardy.
Right. It's amazing. A lot of the population in Latin America sees the solution is to go left.
Well, and look, politics ebbs and flows. And, even in America, one of the major problems we have right now is for a long period of time, we've allowed respectability to escape politics. And so the problem you have is the people that are now running for office, by and large, they're not your top leaders. I mean, it's kind of like when you say to someone, hey, let's join the police force. Who wants to be a policeman today? I mean, talk about pressure. Well, we've done the same thing with politics. And of course, everything is scrutinized. What's going to have to happen, and not that we're here to talk about politics, but I'm just going to say, until you can bring respectability back to politics, until you can bring a system where a smart, educated leader would feel good about running for politics, we got a problem.
Huh. And it's interesting, right? So politicians, it's almost like they've taken the role of, I remember when car salesmen used to have a bad rap, politicians have a bad rap.
Yep.
And I'm going to circle back to real estate. Sometimes I'll call it for sale by owner, and they're like, I don't want to deal with realtors.
Sure.
Sometimes realtors have gotten a bad rap as well.
Well, I mean, all sales professions go through this until you got to remember something. Sales is subject to the Pareto principle, 20-80 rule. What you and I know in Miami is that 20% of the real estate agents do 80% of the volume. So it's that top 20% that you really want to work with. And so it's the same in any profession. I don't care if it's car sales, real estate, whatever. Doctors, professors. Give me 10 professors at Miami-Dade County, and I'll tell you 2 of them are exceptional. 2 of them shouldn't be there. And 6 of them can have a good day or a bad day. And that's just the way the world works. Real estate is very much a street business. I've got a degree in real estate at the University of Texas. And like I tell people, that and $5 gets me a cafe mocha. Because real estate's a street business. You learn it by doing it, by being on the street. The more contracts I write, the better I get at it. You'll laugh when I tell you, every bartender I've ever known who got out of bartending and went into real estate did well.
What other profession you think is a good precursor to real estate? I think you said teaching?
Well, teaching is certainly one. Retail is one. Every person I've ever known who was good at retail, they did well in the real estate business. Sure, because they're used to working with people. And let's face it, you don't have to love people to be successful in real estate. But you do have to have a servant leadership kind of attitude. I'm here to help you, and I'm going to do everything I can to treat you well so that in the long run, you're going to call me back later and refer business to me.
Going back to land for a second, right? Are you pivoting towards land? And I see Gary wearing his shirt for 2 years now, buy dirt, right?
Oh, buy dirt, yeah. Gary's a land guy too. We all are.
Yeah. So, and I'm seeing that, right? Is this like a blue ocean strategy? Like you see that it's a blue ocean that people have kind of maybe they aren't there yet, and you're a first comer, first to market in pursuing this land acquisition strategy? Or was it opportunistic, or is it something that it's just to round off your career? You're saying, hey, you know what, I've developed, I want to do land. Or is it both?
I've always been a land guy. I mean, we've always done stuff around land. So for me, what I like is, because of the size of the operation, I'm just tapping the asset that I have as the co-founder of the company. Okay. Being able to provide to the agents an outlet to go help them be in a joint venture that otherwise they would never touch. Because we go back to whoever sent us the lead and say, look, what do you want on this commission? You want to go into the JV with us? You want to, if they're smart, we can help put them in charge of being a general partner. If they've done some JV work and stuff like that. But it's a great opportunity for them to get involved in their local community on a project that they themselves know makes a lot of sense. Because, Enrique, we don't get involved in a local project without having somebody there locally who really understands and knows the landscape. Remember, all real estate is local. Okay? It's not, when the Wall Street Journal...
Hyper local.
Yeah, totally. When the Wall Street Journal comes out and says, this asset class, it's bad all... Well, it's not bad all around the nation. It totally depends. Look at what's going on in Miami right now. You think these guys are feeling a recession here? Not much.
Mm-mm.
Like me in Austin, Texas. Not much. Now, that being said, there are subclasses right now that are feeling it. Multi-story office being a perfect example. Because as everybody tries to figure out this flex space arrangement, if anything, what I can tell you with certainty is that nobody's going to need as much space as they used to have. Everybody's going to figure out a way. Who can I send home? Because as an employer, that saves me money.
Right.
So if I've got 20,000 feet in a B class building, if I can cut that back to 12,000 feet and send, a third of the group home and just have them come in 3 days a week or whatever, then I'm likely, when it's time to move, I'm going to move to an A-class building. And I'm going to improve my culture. I'm going to improve my recruiting. It's going to be a better office environment, probably going to be a better location with more restaurants and things around. You're going to see that. And I think office is the one that's going to get impacted the most. Retail, less so. I think whoever Amazon was going to put out of business, I think they've already done that. So the reality is most of the retail that's left is retail that we need. And physical retail is not going away. Tire stores not going away. Nail salons not going away. Industrial's really doing well.
because manufacturing's coming back to the U.S. and the supply chain problems we had. Everybody started to figure out, it might be really smart to produce this item in the USA. And so you're going to see that as well as the distribution centers.
And I've been to the family office conference, and I attended a couple of years ago. The thing that has surprised me the most is I think every panel has somehow touched on real estate.
Yes.
Before it was crypto, before crypto it was stocks, but now everybody's talking about real estate.
And the word, the thing that always comes up in my head is this. Is it a fad or is it a trend? You with me?
Huh.
I mean, this right here, guess what this is? This is a trend. When coffee first started showing up, with Starbucks, I'm like, coffee? I mean, you know what I'm saying? And now high school kids, before they go to high school, they go by Starbucks and pick up their coffee.
Uh-huh.
I never drank coffee till I was 40 years old. And so my point is, coffee has now become ubiquitous. You see me wearing a tie? Huh. What happened to ties? The trend is now to go open collar, and no one's wearing a tie. And so that's not a fad, that's a trend. And so real estate has always been around, and it's trendy. It changes.
Okay.
The designs change, but real estate's not going away as an asset class. It's not a fad. Crypto, the thing about crypto when you bring it up, what we know about crypto is crypto's value is defined by what someone's willing to pay for it.
Right.
But it doesn't really have any security behind it, per se, unless everybody believes in that crypto.
Right.
Bitcoin only has value because everybody believes in Bitcoin having value.
Right.
But real estate's different because it has a valuation platform that publicly can be discovered. It's kind of like, is Tesla stock really worth $450? Well, it's only worth $450 because that's what the other guy down the street's willing to pay.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's necessarily worth that. GM produces 5 times the number of cars, but yet its stock's at 32. So that's the thing I always say about real estate. It's a learnable investment, and the things that drive the value can be publicly discovered.
So, Joe, we're wrapping up here. I know, thank you for your time. We're about a block away from your destination.
Yep.
Joe, if someone wanted to get involved, help you out, what's the best thing they should do? If they have land, reach out to you. But I know you're not looking for 5 acres, right?
Well, we're not looking for small stuff, but what they can do to get educated is go to our website.
Okay.
And that website is joewilliams.land.
Easy.
It's easy peasy.
Awesome.
Go to the website. They can read all about the land fund. Tons of information in there. In fact, I have to laugh because I put a whole video system in there where I'm up on stage all over the place.
Speaking of which, I'm dropping you off back at your stage.
You are the man, Enrique.
I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope we can do it again.
It was awesome.